All right, it's top of the hour. A very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us on this exclusive Knowledge Cast series brought to you by SHRM. For all of those who have joined us now and those who are joining in, brace up for a very interesting 60-minute session coming up. My name is Nitya Vijaykumar, and I'm a part of the Knowledge and Advisory at SHRM and your host for the day. Thank you, all of you, for the overwhelming response to this monthly dose of expert series, specially curated by SHRM, where we invite eminent speakers from the industry to discuss various dimensions of work, worker, and workplace. The idea is to draw inspiration and explore ways to deliver sustainable and impactful outcomes for people and organizations. We've had some illustrious leaders on this forum in the past, like Ms. Archana Bhaskar, CHRO, Dr. Reddy's, Mr. Piyush Mehta, CHRO, Genpact, Mr. Parag Paranjape, RJ Corp, Ritu Anand, TCS, to name a few. For those who have joined us for the first time, and for those who want to hear the previous sessions again, I will very shortly be sharing the links to access here on chat. All right, on that note, let me dive right into the session for the day. Earlier this year, India took over China to become the world's most populous nation. And that means we have about 1.43 billion people and still counting. A study by E&Y estimates that by 2030, India will be home to 1 billion working age adults. What does this mean? It means that 1/4 of the world's incremental workforce over the next decade will come from India. We sure seem to be taking off into a golden era. However, a research report from SHRM and Willis Tower Watson nudges us to the fact that let us act now and act fast. Why? Because it brings to light the fact that 85% of jobs that will exist in 2030 have not even been invented yet. That's some waking up that we need to do. So these numbers, what do they throw or what do they showcase? It means that a whole new generation with unique skill sets and expectations is going to take up and come over into the job market. Also, which means that possibly 65% or more people of kids entering into primary school today will end up working in job roles that don't even exist yet. Coming back to the corporate, for multinational companies, India is definitely looking at a very, very golden spot. Why? Because we are obviously, very well populated. However, from the perspective of India's economy, the situation is challenging because there aren't enough jobs currently to absorb the entire working age population. Surveys have repeatedly shown that many graduates, even from many well-tiered and highly sought-after fields, lack the skills needed to land a job. In other words, a lot needs to happen before India can realize the full potential of its 1 billion strong workforce. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be our focus for the next 60 minutes on how upskilling and reskilling of talent can help organizations traverse from gloom to glory. SHRM is extremely committed on this and proud to be a part of Mission Karam Yogi, which is a special purpose vehicle driven by PMO office. So Johnny C. Taylor, our global CEO at SHRM, was recently in India to co-chair an important agenda of B20, which is the future of work, skilling, and mobility in 2023. Resonating our passion is our guest speaker for the day. It's my absolute pleasure to welcome Mr. Ashok Ramachandran to join us here today. Ashok is the Group Executive President, Group Human Resources at Aditya Birla Group. In his role, he oversees HR for a portfolio consisting of a set of businesses across the conglomerate, as well as the group centers of expertise. This includes learning and talent development, talent staffing, organizational effectiveness, HR strategy, and employee relations. Across his career, Ashok has led HR teams to deliver both strong strategic impact as well as building depth of HR processes. Ashok is a strong believer in talent and potential, and also in building of strong opportunities and careers for people. Ashok, it's absolute pleasure to have you here with us. Your range of responsibilities is quite a mouthful, I must say.
Sorry, Nitya, I lost you there. Sorry, my apologies. Sorry, I completely...
Not at all.
There was a flicker in the internet connection at my end, I think. Sorry. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I thought you were closing the introduction.
Yes, I was just welcoming you to to this knowledge cast, and I was also mentioning that your range of responsibilities is quite a mouthful. So I'm wondering just how you go about executing it. So great. To the audience here,
thank you so much. So first of all, thank you so much for having me here, Nitya. Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Such a pleasure, Ashok. Thank you. I was just welcoming the audience. A very warm welcome to all of you. We would definitely want this to be as conversational as possible. I know we have more than 100 plus, live participants watching us today, Ashok, as we get into this conversation. So, audience, my request is please keep sharing your thoughts, pouring your questions here on chat. I'm here to, check with Ashok, and I will ensure that all your questions are answered. We also have a specific time slotted for question answers at the end, but that shouldn't stop you from relaying your thoughts through the session. All right, before we begin, on this knowledge cast, I have a question for all of you here. We're talking about upskilling and reskilling, and I'm told that change begins at home. So I want to know from all of you that have you personally engaged in any upskilling or reskilling activities in the past year? For that, I'll request for a poll question to come up, please. And as that poll question comes up, yes, it's right here. So I want to know, have you personally engaged in any upskilling or reskilling activities in the past year to enhance your professional skills and knowledge? It's very heartening to see the yes going up, but I equally appreciate the candid response on planning to in the near future. Yes, that's all us. All right, we all definitely seem to be on the right track. And those who are planning to, maybe some inputs from our session today on why we should be embarking on that upskilling journey very quickly, should help you there, should act as a good impetus, I must say. All right, on that note, Ashok, I'm going to dive right into some of the questions that I have. But before I do that, any top of the mind thoughts that you'd like to share with us?
No, so thank you, Nitya, for first of all, to you, to Achal and SHRM for hosting a session like this and for inviting me to this session. Exciting topic. It is a topic which is extremely contemporary, and it fits into not just the SHRM journey of what you're building as a community, but also it's relevant to all of us, whether industry, consulting, or wherever we are, or students who might also be entering the workforce today. So very contemporary, happy to be here. I would only urge that all of us on the call don't see it as a massive session only from me to everybody. I'm equally looking forward to your chat box, your questions, your comments, your dilemmas, your disagreements, and so on. So let's keep it as a conversation is my request. Many of you have lots of experience, is what I've been told by Nitya when I asked her for the participant profile, which means we're all on a similar platform of resonance to the topic. We may have different points of view on it. So let's keep the conversation that Nitya mentioned really at the core of the conversation. Yeah. So that's my only request to everybody who's participating in today's call. We'll try and keep it as lively as possible. If I don't know something, I'm going to equally tell Nitya I don't know. And if there are answers in the chat, we can pick it up as well. My objective will also be to keep it real rather than giving you massive gyan on some topic, and keep it very experiential to the extent I can. Yeah. So looking forward to the session. let's enjoy the conversation. Nitya, back to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashok. And I can see that questions have already started pouring in. So wonderful. But questions, I have a few of my own. So Ashok, let me start with the first one that I have for you. So, in 2022, anyone who's been a part of LinkedIn would have been bombarded by this entire viral wave of, quiet quitting. However, earlier this year, we started hearing about quiet hiring, which essentially means that, how new skills and capabilities are acquired without adding new full-time employees. So what do you think this trend is, and why is it catching up, and what do you think is the relevance for an organization?
Yeah, no, I think it's a great start as a question as well, Nitya. So folks, this topic is very real, and it affects people, it affects all of us, it affects our colleagues. This is not a topic which is really only HR, in my view. It is really the business model question. The topic itself on skilling, reskilling is a business model issue. And if I step back, post-COVID, industry has taken a complete shift. Business models have had to reinvent themselves. The advent of technology is also putting in a lot of pressure around more effective use of resources. Data, AI, technology, analytics has become lifeblood for a lot of companies. So the earlier ways of functioning is not going to work. Cost structures have changed. Go-to-market strategies, approach to customer, expectations from customers have changed in most industries. I'm painting this picture because we must see this topic in the context of business transformation and changes which are being cast upon us. And companies which don't change their patterns to understand this change will be left at the far end of the stick. And therefore, whatever we do on reskilling, preparation for the future must handle this model. So, Nitya, to your point, therefore, while quiet quitting was happening and people were finding reasons, purpose, solutions for themselves, why am I doing, what am I doing, etc., the quiet hiring pattern comes from a change in the thinking on manpower model or strategic workforce.
I think we lost Ashok. He should be with us in just a few minutes. Yes, he should be with us in just a few minutes. But I guess what he was trying to basically summarize is from a quiet quitting phase to a quiet hiring phase. Yes, Ashok, welcome back. Sorry, we lost you for a few minutes.
Sorry. Okay, can you hear me now again?
Yes, absolutely, please.
Okay. So I was saying that the topic of today itself is based in the context of business change and business model. And if that business model portends so much of business change relating to technology, customer expectations, our own ability to deliver products and services at cost, a whole lot of analytics and AI engine which is coming in, which leads to better solution making. If this is to be catered to, we must look at skill set as part of a strategic workforce planning effort that we must do. So it's not manpower planning, budget, number of people up or down. It's about, is my workforce org design model suitable for the pressures of the companies that we are serving today? And therefore, from a strategic workforce plan, what are the skill sets which are coming in, which are going to be needed? What are the skill sets which are obsolescent, which are going out of shape, which are retiring, and you need to bring in fresh thinking? Even in the current model, as you fly the plane, how do you change the wheel? These are questions coming up to all of us. So this is also prompting new workforce models. So for example, it's no more the permanent workforce. The gig workforce everybody talks about is definitely upon us. Definitely upon us, because the workforce, elements of the workforce want it. Skews of the workforce model, where I have skews on the weekend in some of my businesses. I can't cater to a 7-day employment model when my skew is really 20% on a weekday and 80% on a weekend. Whole lot of workforce people coming into the workforce don't want a full-time employment. They're saying, can you use my expertise and talent in this manner? And do you have a model to absorb that? returning mothers, which is an important population to include in the workforce, in our thinking. Part of the problem in HR is that we think it's a unique or special thing we are doing about unique mothers or people with special capabilities or people who are challenged in some form.
Yeah.
This is a point you had raised as well in the morning.
That's
the truth is, these are alternate methods of acquiring talent. And the HR mind in each of us must adopt that as the base premise. Not that I'm doing something special for the woman or for somebody who's differently able. It must be part of my model of functioning. And I think, therefore, skilling, reskilling, quiet hiring, as you refer to it, is happening because there are alternate models and alternate profiles available. Last but not the least, the younger generation is pushing the needle. They're coming in smarter, brighter than me, and they're wanting faster, bigger roles sooner. So how do you, and I have a kind of phrase which resonates in my mind. This is, I call as the hurried arrival of the unprepared, hurried arrival of the underprepared, if I may call it that.
Yeah.
So HR and learning professionals or even business leaders must come to grips with this need to prepare, this aspirational bunch. And how do I get them ready? Otherwise, they're not going to stay with me.
Right.
So how do I help them become successful faster? They're not going to be as patient as I've been, or some of our colleagues have been, presumably. So this is the workforce of the future. Quiet hiring is happening because that's the tone which is happening. And the smarter companies are moving in that direction. The lesser smarter companies are cribbing about it and holding on to their past.
Right.
And if we don't recognize it, we'll be obsolete.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much, Ashok, for so beautifully connecting the dots between where work is going, where workplaces are going, and most importantly, where workforces are, actually what their expectations are. So thank you so much for, starting this with a very interesting point on thinking about this entire topic of upskilling with a new lens of actually taking a step back and looking at the larger business model. So gone are those days where a reverse fit would actually work. You build a business model and then, people kind of fit into that. Now, in fact, you need to create working models the other way around. So thank you so much for bringing that.
Nitya, one interesting thought, if I may interject here, one interesting
Yes,
thought. We
please.
did an experiment in one of our companies, and everybody's struggling with costs and so on and so forth. And there is the whole, every company has a middle or senior management layer, which has all these wise senior people doing their stuff and managing the organization and so on.
Yeah.
We are now really talking about, in one of our businesses, which was under cost pressure, etc., we took a model, SWP as we call it, stance, strategic workforce planning stance. Any attrition happening at middle to senior level will be filled with a training at the bottom. So quiet hiring, if you might call it that, okay? It was a stance we took to communicate the message of internal talent movements, the fact that we will not necessarily fill in from middle or senior level from lateral hiring, that you will have to invest in developing your people and getting them ready for that knock-knock opportunity which happens.
Right.
Then the only headcount you're going to get when empty is the chair is a trainee, which means you'll fill the bucket from the bottom. And therefore, the pyramid starts pipelining from middle. Now, I don't make a fuss about it because that you may call it quiet hiring, but I would rather invest in the young talent and let my structure grow and take on bigger, better roles, rather than my structure wonder, why did I get bypassed?
Yeah.
Somebody outside comes in. So this is an interesting model. We don't do it all the time, but we tried it and it worked in one of our business.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for sharing. And imagine, and I'm thinking from that employee perspective also, think about the kind of confidence that, and the time willingly he will invest in upskilling himself, because he knows that, he might be up for the runs to grab the chair next, if he is up there to perform. So thank you so much, Ashok. There are some very interesting thoughts pouring in already. Many people resonate with your thought, but there is one from Tejasvi who says that there is a recent trend about quiet talk and loud quitting. Oh my God, that's quite new. declaring publicly on TikTok that, quite quitting. So when we are talking about quite hiring, there are so many things that are a buzz in the market. Yes, I understand that expression, Ashok. All right, moving into our next question. So what I also want to understand from you, Ashok, is we have seen how this entire future of work is progressing. So ideally, according to you, how would a future-ready workforce look like?
Yeah, this is a very broad question, and I'm wondering. So the future, it's many ways. There are 2-3 ways of cutting it. The way I would look at it. One, I think as professionals, we need to step back and figure out, do we know the future needs of the company? The fallacy in most companies, we have our share of that as well, is if I don't know what's emerging as the future trends in the company, I can't create a future workforce.
Right.
So understanding the changes in technology, understanding the changes in customer patterns, understanding the ups and downs of my market and profitability patterns will help me be agile in future workforcing my team. Okay. Second, I think periodically I make it a point to step back and review the quality of the workforce. So the periodicity of review of your workforce for adequacy or over-engineered workforce. And quite often, people talk about skill gaps. I talk about sometimes many companies are over-engineered for structures. They're over-engineered. I have what is called an experience quotient, call it 100 units of experience. As experience grows, it becomes 120 units of experience to run the same company which I was running at 100 units yesterday. The point I'm asking my team is, how incrementally is it adding value to the work that you're currently conducting? Or have you simply grown the structure and cost incrementally? So the future of workforce really comes from a skill set inventory. Understanding the business priorities, doing a conscious effort of skill set inventory. And that skill set inventory leads to identification of gaps and excesses. You need a solution for both. And a gap solution is really not in the form of training alone. In a classical 70-20-10 approach to things, 70 is really the role. So are we moving the velocity of careers fast enough to prepare the organization of the future? If I don't give any early P&L accountabilities to any of my young colleagues, if I don't give them exposures, opportunities to learn, try, fail, and therefore grow, protect them so much, they'll never be ready. And there will come a time when I say, I don't have people. Why? Because I didn't invest in that 70 early enough. So one of the big tools is roles itself. We must move people around. Face change programs. If you're giving me a role bigger, different than what I'm doing today, help me succeed. Don't put me in a role, call me a failure and discard me. Help me succeed. HR is my request to HR. 20 is your exposures, assignments, projects, and so on. 10 is really the learning and the training and the stuff that you go to classrooms for. And I think if you adopt a model of skill set inventory and do a 70-20-10 model, the second tool we use in Aditya Birla Group is something called the 70% readiness matrix. So around our succession planning efforts, for the identified people, we do a 70% readiness matrix. What does it mean? For defined critical roles, we do a factorization of what it takes to be in that role. Let's say there are 7, 8, 10 factors to be successful in that role. It's almost like the JD aggregated to factors. I then evaluate my people around the matrix and find out who is cutting the 70% readiness frame. And for my top talent, I give my role at 70-72% readiness quickly. And if I'm not top talent, I'm one of the good guys, but not ready for it. Nitya's better talent. She gets the role because she's 80% ready. And at a factorized level, Ashok is 55% ready. He needs more investment, more time. So we have tried to objectivize the choice of people and make them future fit faster. You can't invest in the whole workforce. You must decide whom to invest in from a talent point of view while the base of investing in everybody is also to go up. So making the whole workforce digital, making the workforce aware of sustainability imperatives. Whether you're in manufacturing or services, equipping your top deck to accept this, equipping the bottom and the middle deck to take on more. I think these are some of the tools we've used, Nitya, practically speaking, to create that future tone in a workforce. And we've not been, how do I call it? We've had to be honest and candid with people. We are happy to correct learning. We are happy to teach. We are happy to train. But we can't handle bad discipline. We can't handle somebody who says, I will not learn. I will not change, but I'll be in my seat all my time. Then I must at some time have the polite persuasion, calmness, and edge to vacate the seat for somebody better than me.
Absolutely.
So learn and grow.
Yeah.
Learn and grow, and that's a must. It's not a choice. So future fit workforce, don't give choices for change. That's the harsh truth. I can't be in my seat and refuse to do anything else, but I will be only here.
Right.
So we must have a bouquet of tools to address future fitness.
Thank you. Thank you so much. In fact, you segued beautifully into my next question as well, in terms of while we create these well-meaning strategies, most organizations face challenges in implementing these strategies, and one of which you just explained a few minutes back. So what are, if you were to list a few challenges that faces even the best of strategies, what would be some of the common challenges that organizations face while
Great points. Story of our life, Nitya. This could be the next 2 hours. We could talk about the challenges of what happened there. Okay?
I'm sure we'll have multiple comments pouring in.
Yeah, I'm sure all our participants resonate to this. I think there is a leadership element to things. There's a cultural element to things, and there's a practice element to things. Let me de-aggregate it in some form. I think first of all, the top team must buy into this. If the top team is adamant about today, this quarter, this week, and therefore I need to get my margin to make myself look prettier as a company, you're going to have a problem on being future fit. Top team buy-in into the need to be future fit is a must. This could be pushed by shareholders, leadership, your excom, whoever. So you need to be working with the top team to equip them for this.
Right.
We do a lot of work to ensure that the top team is constantly presenting a 5-year plan, 6-year plan, 10-year plan. Why do we do that? Not to test the process, but to help the leader go away from the rush of today's delivery, which is important, that pays the bills for today, but also think bigger and think beyond your tenure in the company. I have X tenure in the company. I'm going to live happily and then hand over the keys to somebody and then I'm gone. Can't be the attitude of leaders. Leaders have what I call a 70% duty to think future, 30% to execute today. Next layer has a slightly differential at 40% think ahead, 60 you deliver. As you go down, you really focus on 80-20. As you finally go down, it's 90-10. As you go down the level of long-term to short-term thinking. Now, your top team alignment is super critical. You then have this whole culture of learning, culture of investing in people in good times and bad times. Good times and tough times. And that is super critical. Investments in people cannot be staccatoed based on I'm making money today, so I'll invest. I'm losing money, I won't invest. Can we get creative ways to invest even when my budgets are very tight? Today is a day like that, where the economies are tightening up, inflation is up, cost structures are, margins are tightening up, etc. So can I still invest in people in a smart manner to make the engine of learning, engine of future fitness, readiness kept alive? Third, be bold in your moves to celebrate people who are taking the plunge to stay future fit. Future fitness is a dual side. It's not just a company to make me future fit. I must want to be future fit. And here I have 4 points to share, folks. I deeply, some of my points are my passionate points, which I share. So don't mistake my vehemence for what I'm saying it in the way I say it. But I deeply believe if you're not passionate about this journey, it won't happen. I believe the third leg is an employee must want to be future fit. All companies need to be blessed with people who are intending to be future fit. If I'm cozy beyond a point, watch out. Company is on a decline if I'm too cozy. I must have the hunger. So first point, aspiration.
Right.
Is my employee aspirational? Am I able to stoke that aspiration? And not for higher band, grade, money, but to learn, to be different, to try a different thing. I'm here to protect your safety net. Go do what you have to do. Try something new. Am I helping people aspire? Number one. Number two, are you willing to try? Are you willing to be mobile? If you have lots of constraints that you can't move, you can't do this, I can't do that, I can't go here, I won't try anything new, then you're not getting future fit. So second criteria. Third criteria, super criteria, which we tell all our children to do, but we don't do ourselves sometimes, is preparation. Are you prepared to invest in being future fit? I can't say, oh, I want to be future fit. Yeah, but I don't read, I don't study, I don't try anything new. I'm not well read, but I want a bigger role. I want to be great. Excuse me, how will the company help me? So preparation is going to be super critical. And I keep telling all my colleagues that you can't insist on your children studying every day if you don't learn every day. If you think raindrops lead to a river, where is your raindrop? And if your child tells you, I'll study 2 weeks before your exam and you have a heart attack, you must bring that heart attack upon yourself to learn every day then. Why are we easy with each other? And the fourth point is you must train daily, invest daily, train, learn daily. Learning has to be a daily hobby. And I think you must, if you're future fit, therefore three things: the leadership, the company's process and culture, methods and methodologies, and third is the employee. I think this trio has to come together to have the tripod going. Tabhi camera banta hai.
Thank you so much, Ashok. Those 4 points definitely I have made a note of, and I'm sure most of our audience have also. There are quite a few questions on chat, so I'm not going to wait till the end. Indu, when she joined in, I think had already made up her mind of asking you this question. So she's here asking, what are the critical thinking skills for senior leaders in current disruptive business scenarios? There are quite a few questions, Ashok. So maybe we will quickly take a step. Yes, please.
I'll quickly. So Indu, valid question. We're working on a series of. We first of all recognize that senior leaders are busy people. To be fair to them, we keep piling onto them, poking them a little bit, to make a point. But the truth is, they're all busy. Number one. Number two, they're also lonely because they're surrounded by business decisions, and it's easy for HR to give gyan. But the truth is, they are faced with business decisions which can take the corporate this way or that way. So they're also looking for a skill set which will help them do it. What we have found useful to do is conduct a sustained series of perspective building. So can I help the leader think out of box? Can I help the leader think macro? Can I think macroeconomic, supply chain, global thinking? Can I bring that frame into the mind? And what it does is it orients the mind beyond the here and now. So the critical thinking about the future starts coming in when they start factoring these issues into the annual budgeting process. Number one. Number two, and this is not a 1 month affair. It's an intervention affair across a longitudinal period. Second, we have found it useful to conduct what is called capability building at a senior level around FP&A, around budgeting, around forecasting, accuracy of forecasting, using case study methodologies to actually imbibe that spirit of doing it by practice, senior leaders. What it has meant is senior leaders have to come inside the classroom to actually experience what it is to change like this. We've used Capstone as an effective tool to kind of give them a frame for doing it. And this seems to trigger new parts of the brain in our ability to do it. And we are integrating it into the annual budgeting or a 3-year, 5-year budgeting process itself. And peer learning is the last point I'll leave you with. When senior leaders come into peer learning groups, they seem to find it easier to learn. In fact, peer learning sometimes at senior level is far more effective than facilitator-led learning. That's another tool to use, Indu, for trying it. These are all experiments. So when I say it like this, it looks like we have cracked the code. That's not true. We have our share of challenges. Life doesn't flow in 40 seconds of my giving this point. There are pros and cons. There are egos to manage. Helping leaders hold their ego in check and say, yeah, that's a great idea. I can learn from that also, is a work we are doing. And all leaders, I keep telling our people, sometimes the senior it goes, the worse it gets. Senior leaders must stay humble and humble enough to learn. And therefore, we run a campaign called, Are You Vulnerable to Learning? Are you celebrating failures? And I think these are making people more earthier and allowing them to think, we can think bigger. So I hope, Indu, I've answered some elements of your question.
Lovely. Thank you so much, Ashok. I'm going to jump into a slightly a question which is slightly away from our topic for discussion, but very important. How to demonstrate honesty at workplace is what Milind wants to know.
Milind, it's a story of this is a question of a lifetime. So I think role modeling. There's no solution to role modeling. You must make the campaign as a cultural, open, visible campaign. I keep talking about it. Culture is made of waves and movements. Culture is not made of training programs. Culture is made of waves and movements. And waves and movements assume practice of the same by a whole range of people. Only then a wave is created. And we have found it useful to call out when it happens and when it doesn't happen. When it happens, we celebrate it. There are nudges to celebrate it. There are awards to celebrate it. And importantly, most importantly, we call out when somebody is not. And this is about authenticity. We have had to bring it into our appraisal system. We actually measure our values as part of our values. And I'm not saying putting it in an appraisal system won't be gamed. Of course it can. But the quality of conversation, we ran a series called Milind, Conversations That Count. That is, we covered 5,000 managers with it, saying all of us have some subordinates who report to me and so on and so forth. What is the quality of the conversation? And when we did an audit on that, people felt that my boss doesn't have great conversations with me at all. He says something, does something, finally gives me some rating. I don't know where it all goes. We then said, forget the rating. Let's have quality of conversations. So authenticity comes through interactions. And we ran a series called CTC. And of course, everybody was very excited by CTC. CTC in the world of corporate, everybody gets excited. Huh? So we said it's conversations that count. And this is one of the most important parts of CTC you should learn. It just lifted the quality of conversations, leading to better acknowledgement, better conversation, and therefore honesty of declaration of issues. The second series we are trying to do is to get senior leaders to hold back. I might know the answer in a room, but can I stop answering and can I turn it around and say, what is your point of view? So what is in coaching parlance called, what is your point of view? You have a dilemma, it's a great question, but what is your point of view? Can I turn things around? So we're asking people to practice the habit of turning a question back and exploring with the team before the might of your knowledge and wisdom and seniority lands on the question. And we've made this a conversation. And I think that changes culture. People start getting more honest. Now, is it perfect? No. Leaders have egos. They have the reputation to protect. Therefore, they say things to get on with life, etc. For those people, you need to be holding the horse. We need to have the confidence to hold the horse. The CEO and the HR head must have the confidence to hold the horse. If they give up the battle, culture is set. So they need to hold the battle, equally culture is set. So I think it's about practice. It's about having these fundamentals in place, Milind. And I think this is a journey. It's indeed a journey.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much. There are quite a few questions, Ashok. So I'm going to lay this right to you. So one question is coming from Aprajita, where she wants to know that, there are times after high potentials or critical talent is upskilled, they tend to leave the organization. And organizations with limited budgets to train, this hits them really hard because then they are not able to really focus on the solid citizens of the organization, or what we call as the employee base. How should an organization in that case, tackle? And she also wants to know that with the dearth of leadership roles, how do we keep the feeder roles engaged within the company?
Yeah, I think it's a fantastic set of questions. I think it's truly the challenge in every organization, Aparajita. I mean, we have our set of challenges as well there. It is true that quite often your best and brightest will also be the most volatile, sought after. Every other person in outside companies or competition will want your best and brightest. And I guess they have an uncanny way of identifying who's your best and brightest, and people who are solid citizens would continue. Equally, we need to respect their continuity. Few experiments may work in this case. I think people stay invested if communicated actively about their worth. Time and time again, when we have failed, it is because the guy's worth is communicated when he comes in to resign or she comes in to resign. That's when the entire warmth and the bucket of goodies is poured upon the person. The guy says, I already made my decision, because he started looking out 2 months back or 3 months back. Today is the point he's already coming in to tell you he's going. So for me, predictive analysis, proactive thinking about vulnerability, finding out where are the green lights, red lights likely to happen, doing actually a structured thinking about workforce on a quiet day, and say, if I take my entire workforce of 100 people, if I leave the bottom 10% as non-performers, average performers, who anyway we need to do something about, and take the mid-rung and the top 20-30% as super high performers and high potential, can I offer differentiated offerings to them? Can I do low-cost connect? Can I get leader teach leader series? Whenever we had a budget constraint, I've just called upon my leaders to come and conduct sessions. When I couldn't afford a facilitator from outside, when I couldn't afford expensive solutions of sending them out, etc., I've gone to management institutes, academia. I've gone to training firms, which are fraternity firms. I've gone to my leadership team and say, guys, you need to give me time. I need your time, and use them as the method to motivate people. And what it does, in our view, my experience is, when we put leader teach leader kind of a series up there, not only there is communication, there is connect, there's mentoring happening, there's future networks being built. And suddenly I find people who are otherwise volatile because money, this, that, etc. is happening in the ecosystem, are willing to stay invested. If they believe there is hope and there is trust in your communicating of the hope, they stay. Not all. So conveying the aspiration, that you have an aspiration, I give you the validity of hope that we'll get there. And trust me, and I've kept my word 10 times in the past, but if I failed you 5 times in the past, you'll know me. So therefore, trust as an ingredient helps you hold people back. You'll still lose a few people, but you'll lose far lesser people if you take this very softer approach of employee connect, training, using your own workforce to connect, if you have a budgetary constraint, which I do have many times. People think the big companies don't have. I have significant budgetary constraints.
All right.
And that's a thought for you to consider. The last point I want to mention is, people stay for reputation. And reputation is a smell or a stink. It can't be anything in the middle. Okay. Either you trust me or you don't. Irrespective of what I say, if I haven't kept my word, you won't trust me. Okay. And if I say, please stay, life is great, you're going to be my future of this company, you won't stay for me. In fact, you'll go further back. Whereas if you trust me, you may stay. So can we create leaders who create trust by the way they behave? Don't overpromise. Say the right things. Be honest in helping people succeed. And helping people succeed is not a costly affair. There's enough material in the company, enough quality of resources in the company to bring to the table of people. I don't think we leverage enough of that. That's my take.
Thank you, Ashok. Sorry, you were saying something?
Go. Next question.
So, in fact, there are quite a few questions on the same aspect of, how do we go about with a bootstrap budget. I hope all those questions have been answered here by Ashok. with what he mentioned just now. There's another question which is here. It talks about how do you see corporate universities enabling the future readiness of employees? I think as ABG Group also, you invest a lot in this, Ashok. Goes on to ask that he's asking more from the perspective that maybe the learner themselves are not aligned on what they need to learn and how is the work of world getting, evolved tomorrow. So maybe the learners don't have clarity in that case. What is the kind of role that, corporate universities are playing? So if you can just share your thoughts on that, please.
Sure. No, so I want to de-aggregate the topic a little bit, Nitya, to say that I think forget the word called corporate university, because that then pitchforks us into something else and everybody starts wondering. So irrespective of the size of the company, I think the function of learning, training, HR, even leadership in some form has to be to create a level playing field for opportunities. I think at the end of the day, nobody wakes up in the morning thinking I must attend a training program. Nobody thinks like that. Everybody gets up saying I must succeed, and I hope this is the company which will help me succeed. All of us have aspirations. Our families send us to work assuming we are doing something useful for ourselves and for the family. They are the first people you work for, okay? Nobody gets up thinking about competency framework and methodology and my company's resources. So these are all in the head of companies and HR people, presumably. So can I connect with that employee's fundamental need to succeed? Can I give them honesty of feedback? Can I invest in differential experiences for the person which will help the person scale up? Can I help the person self-realize that your aspiration and your capabilities are not matching? And would you like to form a bridge to match the same? Which will mean lots of conversations, a lot of one-on-one. Everybody in our mind, everybody on the call, we would like to be treated as the person we are. If I say on an average, we are all good, you won't accept it. If I say 85% of us are good, you'll wonder whether I'm in the 15 or 85. And what is this guy saying? To each of us, we are 100%. If I bring that philosophy to conversations with workforce, I think we'll have a better match of aspirations, company plans, and the preparatory methodologies. Corporate universities, I would rather de-aggregate the word and call it a network of learning. I think we as professionals have to create a network of learning. I need to bring you to academia. I need to bring you to learning rooms. I must give you roles. I must give you exposures. I must use coaching and mentoring where relevant. I must give you honesty of feedback where relevant. And these are powerful tools to use, horses for courses. And do this across levels. Do this for your senior leadership team. Do reverse mentoring if required. Get senior leaders to be vulnerable and role model vulnerability to learn. I think we run a set of companies in ABG. Some of our very progressive leadership teams are where the senior leader himself says, I don't know, I need to learn, and goes and learns and finds his colleagues and junior team is way better and ahead of him. And he's proud of that. And he's trying to cope with that. These could be managing directors of companies. And some of the companies I struggle with are companies who say, I'm God and I'm therefore senior and therefore, I'll tell you what to do. I'll give you gyan on a subject I have no clue of. But can I hold that leader back a little bit? Have the honesty to say, buddy, you need to be in the classroom. You need to stick with me and learn. Stop sounding like this all-knowing. I think that mix of tools of honesty, of interaction, quality of work, authenticity, and holding some of your few leaders down a little bit, I think is going to be the tool for the future. Future of work and workforce is going to be created by this basket. It is not going to come from methodologies, frameworks, and design and rollout stuff, and it won't be that carpet bomb. And no disregard to competency. We also have a fair share of competency. My colleagues know me for telling this very openly. All frameworks are important. And I love frameworks and process and so on. But it must show impact. And if some of my leaders are blockheads, I must do something about it.
Thank you. That was indeed really impactful, and sticking on the aspect of impact. The minute we talk about upskilling, reskilling, I think the first question that comes, or we get to hear is on what is the ROI, and some of the aspects that that you did mention, and as you were just saying, it's just not about that. It's also about taking a step back and kind of connecting the larger dots and, looking at the larger picture. But when it really comes to people who are delivering, who are designing, delivering for the junior and mid-level, etc., ROI is a point that they are measured at. So, what has your experience been, Ashok? How do you think this impact or effectiveness should actually be measured, and what are some of the most practical tips that you can share?
Now, this is always a tricky question for HR. A lot of what we do at the end of the day, what's the value of it? ROI of training, Kirkpatrick model, etc., has much gone past, and today we are talking about really what is the impact, how is it sustained, and so on. I look at it, I go back to the first point I made. All that I do is my organization future fit because of that. Are my leaders, is my budgeting process better because of the wider perspective they bring in? Is my ability to forecast business success better because I have a more informed leadership team? We are depending significantly on team and cohorts of training rather than individuals of learning and training. Peer learning is something we have brought in big time into. We are also saying, is my organization for any given critical role better on the pipeline of readiness?
Yeah.
And therefore, that's a measure of ROI of what I'm preparing for. If I have a particular skill set that I'm missing, can I rotate the roles? So rotation of roles to complete the 70% readiness matrix. Because if I do a 70% readiness matrix on myself, I could come to hey, Ashok is a good guy, but 55% ready for the next bigger role that he should be aspiring for. So what are the experiences he needs to complete to get that quotient up? And can I do that within the next 2 years for Ashok? Because if I say, no, Ashok, you're a good guy, I'll do it for you over 10 years, I may not wait for you. But if you say next 2 years, we have a plan for you, I'll wait for you. The velocity of investments and making sure that the path gets Ashok to 80% readiness so that when the opportunity knocks, we are able to help Ashok in this example. Number one. Number two, the other thing is, I think we must not hesitate to vacate seats. Quite often, one of your colleagues in the chat has mentioned about biases of leaders. I think one of and Milind talks about championing mindset. I think the truth is we must, HR folks, business folks, training folks, must have an insight into people. And I would urge all of us to cultivate that. And I continue to cultivate that as a passion to see, can I identify the blockers? Organizations do a huge injustice by investing in the developmental side and not doing anything to vacate seats which are blockers. So if I have a negative mindset, if I have an attitudinal issue, you can't create future fitness. I can't keep reskilling you for what? Because you're not getting up in the morning thinking of reskilling. You're thinking of, is it leading to a better future? I want a bigger role. I want to do a bigger canvas. But the canvas is filled with blockers. If it is, then I must ventilate the organization in a graceful manner. Carrying grace is equally important, but being soft and graceful is not right. You must be honest about it. And if the honesty lands suddenly after 5 years of telling me I'm a fantastic guy, I'll be shocked. Can I have consistency of performance communication leading to saying, Ashok, you've done well, but this is not what you're expecting. You're not reskilled. You're not changed. We need you to move aside to another role, or thank you. We need to vacate your role for somebody who's better skilled, better ready. And I think that helps the organization stay agile. And I'm not predicting a higher fire culture. Don't mistake me. I'm simply saying a graceful way of organization vitality is important. And HR must have a championing mindset, as Milind said. You must have a deeply passionate need to keep the workforce future fit. Tabhi reskilling banega. Otherwise, reskilling in isolation is you're filling up a full glass. You need to have capacity in the glass to refill.
True. Thank you, Ashok. And I hope that answers many of you who had a question on that. Ashok, DEI and B, which is diversity, equity, inclusion, and belongingness, has been in the talks for quite some time. And rightfully so, because where we are at one end talking about this huge, population, huge amount of talent which is available, but there equally seems to be a group that is talking about, not being able to find the right kind of talent, right kind of, people to fit jobs. So what are your thoughts when it comes to two specific cohorts? One, globally, there is a big, talk about bringing more women into the workforce. So when women do come back after a break for whatever, and even men increasingly, multiple people take different breaks. What is it that an organization can do to ensure, from an upskilling, reskilling point of view, to ensure that they are seamlessly kind of, brought back into the mainstream, so to speak? That's one question. And the second question is also on this huge talent pool, which you also touched upon, of people with disability. Now, there are some physical disabilities, there are some cognitive disabilities, but each job role can actually look at what kind of disability that they can still continue to work with. So as a large conglomerate, as a big organization, what are your thoughts on this? How can organizations go about ensuring that these two sects are actually inducted into mainstream corporate?
Yeah, no, I think it's indeed an important point, and I think it's a great point. Just before I come to, just want to add another point which struck me on the earlier conversation. I think quite often future fitness is created by using experienced seniors in the group, and we found it useful that there comes a stage in life, and we've experienced it like that. I don't know if any of you in the call experience it like that, or if you're in that life stage, you will experience it for sure. Okay, which is you are at a certain level of experience where it's no more the day job of what you're doing today which matters. You want to give back, and therefore we find that what is called the sense of significance as a measure of investment. A lot of our experienced seniors want to come back. So we found that that's a nice way to vacate those roles for a lot of aspirant people and use that richness of experience, the level of tacit knowledge that our seniors carry, to train a bunch of the hurried arrival of the underprepared.
Yeah.
And use them as our mentors, use them as our coaches, because they have deep expertise on the subjects that you have in your business. It is a bit of what may be called a cost. But by the way, that's a cost I pay to outside firms for training. So can I use my own resources, full-time training, help succeed? Can I draw on their experiences? They are happy to do that. Youngsters are happy to learn. By the way, I vacate a set of seats for the aspirant workforce, which is coming up the curve. And I think we have found that useful. We don't do enough of that, is my point. I think we need to do more of that. And business leaders are always a little worried about, no, I can't leave this experienced guy. Business will collapse. Life will shut. Nothing shuts, nothing collapses. It's all in the head. Life moves on. So I think we must move towards that journey, is my deep belief. And it allows you to think about personalized learning. It allows you to customize. It allows you to structure small solutions rather than itne logon ke liye solution. And my belief is, however big your company or ocean is, each drop of water requires attention. Each person is unique. I can't say I have 10,000 people or 100,000 people. So on an average, everybody, there's nothing called an average. You're 100% yourself. And all of us wake up thinking, I hope somebody in the company is thinking about me and my career and my future. And if I say on an average, I thought of you once a year, you will say, hello, what is this? So I think that the need to personalize value for people is the beauty of an organization. I think that's something I deeply believe in. I don't think we get it right all the time, but it's something I'm on a journey on.
Thank you. Sorry, before you jump to the DI, thank you so much. That definitely heard as a win-win for all. And thank you so much for sharing that, Ashok. Sure. Yes, please, on the DI, please.
DI, I'm just conscious of time. I'm okay for 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes more if you want and if the people want. If you're going to shut call, I don't mind, but I'll just leave it quickly, finish this answer and hand back to you, okay?
Yes, please.
So the alternate workforce, as it's called, is now becoming mainstream workforce.
Yeah.
In my view, we have to change our mind to even look at it like that. If I start saying them as alternate, I'll start doing some flexibilities to accommodate kind of a tone comes in my voice. True. I start sounding like I'm doing a massive favor by recruiting a few people from alternate sources. But that's wrong. If I start creating a mind frame of this is equivalent, I will start finding merit in those people of different profiles as well. Number one. Number two, yes, when they come in, they will need a reinduction to workforce profiling. If we create, maybe through my seniors who are available, through an acceptance by leaders that there will be change, I think there'll be merit in simply integrating them faster. Number one. Number two, if I look at the track record of percentage success and failures of new hires, recruiting these different types of profiles as part of the rhythm is no different from the success or failures from what is called a normal employee profile. There is as many successes or failures in hiring that we do.
Right, right.
So it is not to say that we do a better job of hiring the so-called men who come from a standardized background versus women or something. I think we must remove the barriers and simply move through the process of treating them as patterns of hiring and have the heart to be there.
Right.
Not create a huge bahut kar diya kind of a tone to yourself. And therefore set your sights high. What is called purpose. Everybody talks about purpose these days. So keep your purpose correct. Think about what it would mean if you were in that workforce that you call as DEI. Think about what it will mean that if you had to be looked at in a certain manner, and that brings a certain level of empathy, that brings a certain level of courage. Why courage? Because I must tell some of my business leaders that this is part of your normal functioning. You're not doing me a favor by employing two people from alternate patterns. I think if you make it par for the course and normal, life happens. And of course, some targets are useful. I mean, I believe in that. There can be two views on this. I appreciate that. But I believe in the concept of put action where the mouth is. And if that doesn't come into targets, it'll be words. Words to action needs milestones. I don't have the courage to put a milestone, I'm bullshitting.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'm just being mindful of time. Though I have a lot of requests from the audience who are saying that please continue, go on. But audience, we promise to come back, with more from Ashok and one of our panels very soon. Thank you so much, Ashok. That was one really delightful session. What I am definitely going to do is to collate some of these nice thoughts and inputs that are pouring in on chat. And audience, you have been absolutely wonderful. I must tell you, I did not progress more than my second question. So many questions that you guys had for Ashok. Thank you for sharing your thoughts and being here with us. And Ashok, an extremely candid session that kept it lively throughout. So thank you so very much for being here.
Thank you, Nitya, Achal, and the team SHRM. All the best to you on your endeavors. Thank you for hosting a great session. Thank you, audience, for being fabulous on the chat. I can see lots of interesting comments. I'm also going back thoughtful for some of the questions and comments you asked. I'll need to think about some of those as well for myself. So thank you so much. Pleasure being here. And I hope all our journeys stay active and live and vibrant in the way that you expect and aspire to be. Thank you so much, folks.
Absolutely. Have a great evening, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers. Bye. Thank you so much. Bye.